Hello and welcome to Geek Warning, the podcast that puts the world's most interesting cycling tech and tech conversations into one place. I'm Dave Rome, Senior Tech Editor for Escape Collective. Joining us this week, slightly different cast than usual. Who do we have?
Well, I'm here. I'm Suvi Loponen, the tech reporter at Escape Collective.
Great to have you back.
And I'm Ronan McLaughlin, Senior Wind Tunnel Correspondent, I think the website has from my position.
Oh, right. Wow. Yeah. Our job titles change based on the things on our mind, it seems. So I would say you're head of pressure
Head
testing.
of whatever I can be bothered to do this week.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, good to see you both. Suvi, welcome back to the podcast. It's been quite a few episodes, but I think we've got plenty to talk about and plenty that you've been actively working on. So
I think it's always a sign of a good episode when I'm in now, because last time, what did we talk about? I can't remember. Something very exciting in this week again.
Yes.
Very exciting topics to come.
Don't sell it short. I think, I think this one, the topic we're going to talk about, I think people are getting sick of, but it's very important, and I think, unfortunately, it's going to have an impact on us all. But I've given it away what it is without even saying it. All right. Before we get there, we do have a bit of a bonus information corner. We're not calling it a corrections corner, but following our conversation last week about tire sizes in Roubaix and how big you can go on road bikes, and Ronan dropping the bombshell and reminding us that the UCI actually has a limit of how big of a tire you can go based on its outside diameter, I went ahead and put some Pirelli 40mm tires onto Hunt's Limitless gravel wide wheel set, which are 27mm internal on the front and 26mm internal on the rear, if I'm not mistaken. Might be 28, 27. Anyway, I'll figure out those numbers when I'm ready to write up the review. What stood out to me is that the wider the rim you go, the more the tire will sort of flatten itself out, and the effective diameter won't be quite as big. It won't balloon quite as tall. So if you put that tire on something as excessively wide as like a Zip Explore 303 rim, which sits at 32mm wide, I think the tire does fall under that 700mm max capacity. And that Hunt wheel, just borderline depending on how you measure it. I think you're probably going to scrape in within the UCI's ability to measure the thing at a race start. So 40mm is possible based on what rim you're putting it on.
It's probably also no longer going to be a 40mm though. If you put it on such a wide rim, it's going to balloon out to 41, 42 or something like that.
Yep. So, but yeah, I guess the actual height of the tire becomes less severe. So yeah, food for thought, I guess, is the point. Yeah, it might be it might just be that we one day, I don't think this is the year, but one day maybe we do see tires go that wide, or perhaps not, based on what.
Yeah, Dave, the other thing is, like, if the UCI are actually enforcing their rules, last year they came out with the reminder that tire and rim combinations had to be in keeping with the ISO standards.
Yep.
And the recommended rim widths, according to ISO, for the 40mm tire can be anything from a 17 all the way up to a 27. So that 27 that you're on is as wide as you're going to be able to go.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, good to know. And yeah, more on that, I'm sure, will come in the near future. But yeah, just a little extra bit of info off of last week's episode.
Yeah, I still don't think we're going to be seeing these.
No.
So it's kind of a moot point, but it seems like everybody has these 40mm Pirellis at the moment. Every publication, every YouTube channel, all of us, well, not all of us, you and I, Dave, have them.
Yes.
I've had them for a long, long time. I think that just speaks to how sort of mad it all is, a 40mm performance road tire.
Yep.
And
I think the more attention they get, the more people buy them, and then perhaps struggle to wonder why, for the same amount of power they're putting out, they're going slower. But anyway, let's...
I might just suggest you apply a considerable pinch of salt to any testing results you see with these tires.
Okay. Until yours come out. Anyway, let's move on with the show. But I think, Suvi, you've been very busy the last few weeks. Obviously, big things are happening in the US at the moment, with tariffs being applied to just about everyone, including uninhabited islands with penguins. And so you've managed to pen up an article very quickly after the big announcement of the tariffs being put into place. And I know you're actively working on more to come, sort of diving deeper into what this will mean for the industry broader and even the industry outside of the US. But yeah, I mean, can you give us a quick sort of breakdown, explainer of the last week of events and sort of what your article hit on?
Well, yeah, President Trump introduced a big chunk of tariffs on everyone, like you said, last Wednesday. And it's probably, I don't know if it's worth noting when we're recording this, because by the time this podcast goes out, who knows what has happened. But because every day since, there's not been any changes to the tariffs that Trump introduced, but there's definitely a lot of ongoing uncertainty, which has been ongoing since Trump was elected last year. But in essence, I guess, yeah, there's been huge tariffs introduced to goods that are arriving to the US from all countries, but specifically for the cycling industry. A lot of the big supplier countries, big manufacturing countries, the likes of Vietnam, Taiwan, Japan, China, they're all facing more than 30% tariffs. Sorry, Japan is actually 24%, so under 30% tariff. So that's on all things that arrive from that country to the US. And it is not paid by the country that is sending those goods, it is paid by the US, the American manufacturers, or whoever's receiving those goods in the US. Yeah,
it's paid at the port of receiving, basically. So yeah, as the goods land in the USA, it's up to the brand to pay what's effectively a tax on those products in order to then receive those goods from out of their containers. So yeah, it's directly I think the countries you mentioned there are certainly worth highlighting, that most of the products in the cycling industry are come from origins of these places that we're talking about. A lot of it comes from mainland China, a lot of it comes from Taiwan, that's the bulk of it. But in recent years, a lot of cycling companies had made strides to sort of remove their dependence on mainland China and remove their dependence on Taiwan because of the uncertainty around all that. And yeah, a lot of them moved manufacturing to Cambodia and Vietnam, which have the two that got hit with the biggest tariffs in this announcement. So yeah, certainly I think this is news that is going to hit people in many ways, but specifically our little world of the cycling world, I think it is significant news.
It is, and not much notice was given. And I think that's the biggest thing. I talked with quite a lot of brands last week, and they were not very cheery calls I was having with them. But most people said that if they had known, obviously we knew, I wrote about this in November, tariffs are coming. That was what Trump was saying all along. Tariffs are coming, but no one really expected this to happen. That countries, just China was talked about, but Vietnam, Cambodia, they were not really on the table. And then brands were given basically, they've got a week to sort this out. And the goods are already on the way. There are stories out there how companies are going to be hit by $1 million tariffs when the goods actually then enter the US. They're trying to figure out where can they get them the quickest. So they were really not given much time to actually plan this, what to do.
Yeah. Josh Portner actually just posted in his Marginal Gains podcast. He actually just had quite the monologue on this and some interesting things. But he basically spoke about the lack of forward warning on this means that some of these brands, if these tariffs are actually put in place and effective, it could cause significant cash flow issues for brands that are, potentially have paid for their stock and have paid for the shipping and expecting to land it and need that stock in order to basically provide the company cash flow. And now they're going to have this extra, 20-30% tariff in order to get their stock, and yeah, they might not have the cash in order to get it out of the port, and then they have to take a loan just to get their stock, and then it basically delays the delivery of the stock and all these other things that are unexpected for our industry, and also come at a time where times are already pretty tough. Like we were already reporting, ignoring all the tabs, we were already reporting that numerous brands were struggling, and that times are not quite as vibrant as they once were in the cycling industry. So it's quite scary, I think, for a lot of brands.
And Dave, both of you have mentioned there, like forewarning and planning and predicting. And I think it's important to mention that it would have been absolutely impossible to predict what was coming because the tariffs applied and the formula used to come up with those tariffs is not something that is not a formula that has ever been used in economics in the history of humanity. I think it came out of ChatGPT or something like that. So there, who knows? But basically, what it is a country's trade surplus divided by their exports to the United States, and then because the president is so kind and caring, he then halved whatever the result is there, and that is the tariff applied to a country, and hence how you've ended up with and I think it's also an important thing to mention is like smaller nations and countries in Asia producing most of what we use in cycling have been hit with huge tariffs because they export a lot to the United States, but the populations of those countries, they're not wealthy enough to purchase and import a lot from the United States, and so it's like this double whammy effect that just is unfairly punishing these countries. I don't know how else to put that.
Yeah. So, and I think it's worth noting, and I hope people listening to this podcast understand this, but like the whole idea of the tariffs, the pitch is that, it supports US manufacturing and encourages people to support local manufacturing where the tariffs aren't applied. But the unfortunate truth is that most raw materials are still imported into the US. Like the US has pretty significant gaps in the raw goods it has, raw materials, and so the tariffs are applied to pretty much everything. So while the cycling industry is strongly reliant on international manufacturing and specifically Asian-based manufacturing, even domestic producers, US domestic producers, and even brands that are incredibly strongly based in the US in terms of they try to source everything they get from the US. Even they, we've been speaking to them, like Abbey Bike Tools comes to mind. I think Steiner is another one, Suvi, you might have spoken with, or Stinner. But yeah, basically all of them, their raw materials are going to have significant price hikes through this, and they're not going to be able to eat that as a just in a loss. Like, their prices are going to have to rise as well, even though they are domestic producers. And with those price rises come the unknowns of like, how much will the market accept a price rise before demand decreases? And that's the big unknown. That's the scary thing for, I think, everyone in the bike industry right now is it seems like guaranteed prices are going to go up, but what does that do to demand?
I think demand is already hit because prices haven't gone up yet. They almost certainly will. But what is happening is this like fear of a looming recession. And so, what do people do? And when there's a recession on the horizon, we sort of bunker down, we save, we don't go out and buy discretionary stuff. We don't take loans to buy this stuff. We don't, take on extra debt. We be careful. And, so there's already that in effect, and that'll be borne out in numbers in months to come, no doubt. And then it'll be a double whammy when you take that actually things are going to be more expensive for American customers. Then even if they were prepared to spend, it gets more difficult to do so.
So yeah, prices are going up. Definitely encourage everyone to check out Suvi's written piece on escapecollective.com. It's exceptional and gives a really good broad overview of the early signs of what we can expect. But Suvi, some of the conversations you've been having are sort of, while mostly negative, there probably is perhaps some positivity to come from this. What are you hearing?
Yeah, there's few positive things, but probably the most positive thing that we can all be happy about is that repair and kind of used parts, fixing things at services is going to probably have, the demand is going to increase. Mm-hmm. I was talking with a carbon fiber repair company. They specifically said, like, well, if there's one good thing out of all this, maybe people are going to want to hold on to their things for longer and actually get stuff fixed rather than buy new. So yeah, some other brands were saying as well that, well, maybe this is kind of going back to COVID times, like secondhand bikes are going to become the hot commodity. People are going to want to buy those.
For a different reason, but yeah, certainly.
Yeah, different reason, yeah. But I think those are pretty much the only positives at the moment seen in this. And obviously, I guess to some extent, like I did talk with Stinner back in November, and they are manufacturing obviously in California, in the US, and they've been doing that for, I think, 10 years now. And it's obviously great that they have the manufacturing there domestically. And if you do then buy, say you live even in the area, you have this special connection. They are employing young people in the area. I think most of their employees are under 30 or so. Mm-hmm. So it's not all negative, but the issue is that on a grand scale, it's just that the manufacturing is not going to be brought back into the US. And it's a very small impact that this is going to have in the next kind of few years.
For sure. Yeah, and I guess we don't want to be too political on this show because I mean, Geek Warning is really just a place to talk bikes, but I think the tariffs, I think they'd have a lot more positive reception if it was maybe applied to to finished goods only. I think is sort of one sentiment I've heard is like unfinished goods or raw materials. If tariffs were, if that were exempt from tariffs, then that would be far more positive news for those actually trying to do manufacturing locally and have, even if it's just on an assembly level. But yeah, to have it applied to basically everything, unfinished and finished goods, is bad for everyone. It seems in an industry as small as ours, it doesn't seem like there's going to be too many winners. So anyway, I mean, to reiterate, we try not to be too political on the podcast, but this is a current world event that is going to have, if everything goes through the way it is currently planned to go through, it's going to have pretty significant impact on, I believe, everybody. And I think the reduced demand out of the US and the strength of the US market, at least from a branding and a design point of view, I think will have impact on other markets as well. So one we're going to keep following and keep diving into, and certainly keep an eye on the website, because we're certainly going to be reporting on this as it comes through. And we're in touch with a lot of brands about how it's likely to impact them. I'd say if you have been in the market for anything and you've got the means to do it, then now's probably a good time to buy it before prices go up or stock gets halted, because brands can't afford the tariffs. So anyway, let's move on to happier things, and I guess it's somewhat related, which is we've got a PSA this week, which is a lot of the world is coming out of winter, and I suspect many people have been spending their winters on an indoor trainer, and so it's that time of year again when we repeat the same PSA that we do every year at this time, which is if you've been riding your indoor trainer without any cleaning or without any work on it, then it's probably time before you take it off the trainer and put it on the road that you actually take the service and maintenance of it pretty seriously, because your sweat is gross and your bike hates it. I mean, I guess, it sort of flows on from the idea of probably more demand for service if prices of everything's going up. So let's talk about this for a bit. I mean, it's...
Shall I give an example of how this manifests? That might...
Sure, please.
And the example I always give when we always talk about this PSA in every year of Escape Cracks have existed so far, sometimes multiple times per year. I give the example of riding alongside another rider in a sportif in August time and coming down a descent. The entire drop section of the left hand side of his handlebar just came off,
dropped off,
broke away, and it was just highly corroded. And he actually said to me, "Oh, I'd been meaning to change that for a while," which was doubly worrying. And he also didn't quite understand why I didn't want him to be riding in front of me, because as I seen it, if one side went, there's a good chance the other side is ready to go also.
And you could probably also smell his handlebar tape from where you were.
Yeah, well, you didn't even need to smell it. You could just see there was something going on there.
Okay.
But that's what can happen. Your handlebar can just snap in two as you're riding along.
Yeah, so especially like aluminium handlebars can corrode, so this is a very good reason to replace your bar tape more regularly than most people do. But especially if you've been on the indoor trainer through a heavy winter, I'd be absolutely thinking about a service that involves new bar tape, an inspection of the handlebar, chances are, if you haven't done anything, your headset bearings have probably been rusted, and I'd be looking to at least service those, make sure that they're not rusted through, make sure that they're still in good health and that they're freshly greased, and then that way you won't end up potentially giving your fork the ring of death.
Add time trial extensions to that list also for time trialists and triathletes who may be training in position on the trainer, and especially with some of the modern profiled ones, like a lot of the mounting systems are within the extensions and hard to see, and it's worth opening those up and checking how the insides are looking. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I guess add to the list, if your bike has mechanical shifting or brakes, I'd be really carefully inspecting the cables. Now is a good time to just replace your gear cables if they've haven't been replaced for a while, because they probably see quite a bit of wear on the trainer anyway if you've been riding the trainer a lot. And related to that, I think be sure to measure your chain for wear, because whether you're indoors or out, you can still cause a significant amount of wear on your chain. And definitely check it. Make sure it's not too far gone for the cassette it's about to be matched up with again that you hadn't ridden for 6 months. I don't know. Just wash your bike. If it smells, that's probably a good sign that you needed to wash it a few months ago and that you're way overdue for new bar tape.
If there are brown parts where there didn't used to be brown parts.
Yes. And let's just hope it's rust related.
Rust.
Yeah. So any signs of like rusty goop coming out of the headset area, you've way overshot the need for a service. So but yeah, certainly I'd be getting your bike serviced if you're not comfortable with it, but if you are comfortable doing that, it's time to open things up, remove bar tape, check your cables, check your headset bearings, and go from there. Yeah. That's that PSA for now. I'm sure we'll come back to it again in the future, because it's a big one. So,
well, Dave, is there anything? I was thinking about the trainer. I don't really do anything to mine until it actually starts making weird noises. But is there some sort of servicing we should be doing to it when the summer comes?
Some trainers are, I guess, more serviceable than others. Generally speaking, most of them are kind of like enclosed and not necessarily intended for user service, but one thing I've found that I think people can do is like a lot of trainers, and I'm thinking specifically Wahoo, with just a few screws, you can kind of get behind the plastic cover that shields the belt. So sort of the main part that sort of connects the free hub part to the flywheel, and you can get in there, and often you'll find like a lot of like belt wear causing dust that ends up going into the bearings of the trainer. I'd say getting in there every few months and cleaning that out can probably not hurt, I'd say, and is pretty easy. Just typically an Allen key or maybe a screwdriver. But yeah, going a level deeper, I mean, you can technically replace bearings in these things, but it's not necessarily always the simplest of jobs. So I'm just gonna elect to say keeping it easy in this one.
I haven't done any of that, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
Spring and summer have come here, and I'm wasting no time in getting out and riding at night.
Yeah, fair. Riding
That's
at
what
night.
you want.
Yeah,
it's good that you're just limiting your UV sun exposure. So good for your skin.
I'm outside. I'm still not getting any vitamin D.
Yeah, get it from the tablets.
Riding at 1 a.m. is a sure way to make you feel like you're always riding in winter.
It's a sure way to make you feel like a lunatic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm still very eager to see what comes of your 1 a.m. riding. So
it's getting closer. It's getting closer.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, speaking of things that are getting closer, Sea Otter. I've been mentioning it for weeks and weeks, it feels like, because it seems like I got the dates wrong. But it is actually now this week. And with that is a whole wave of new products. Yeah, I mean, this is a long list of new products, and this is keeping some of the things off the list as well. We've got Josh Weinberg on the ground covering Sea Otter for us, so keep an eye on coverage from that. But yeah, I guess let's tick off some of the bigger things that we know for sure are coming. 2 bikes on the list, both gravel bikes. There is a new Able from Allied Cycle Works out of Arkansas in the US, and it's a bike that we've seen Payson McAlvin racing in the Lifetime Grand Prix. I believe late last year. If not, we've certainly seen it early in early events this year. But yeah, it looks completely different to the previous Able. So Garner, the raised chainstays now replaced with notably dropped chainstays, which impressively Allied have squeezed 57mm tire clearance out of, which is absolutely massive. And yeah, that request apparently came from Payson himself, where he's basically insisting that the bike fits 29 by 2.25 inch mountain bike tires. So yeah, they've cleared that in what looks like a pretty normal gravel bike. So it's a pretty impressive feat. The Geo's gotten some slight tweaks. It's a little bit longer in the front center and the rear center now. So about 30mm longer wheelbase all up. There's some simple down tube storage. And yeah, frames are quoted in most sizes to be under 1 kilogram. Expect to pay about $4,500 US for a frame set with fork and seat posts and all the little bits. But it is worth noting that, yeah, it appears Allied has continued its offshoring move with the Able. So, yeah, following the new BC40 mountain bike, this one is also now made in Taiwan. It'll be interesting to see how the tariffs impact this one. But yeah, anyway, one we'll be following up on, and I believe one we'll have on escape soon enough, probably through Sea Otter. So yeah, keep an eye out for that one. Speaking of gravel bikes, this brand's been a little quiet in the last few years. They got acquired and moved their head offices, and then, from what I understand, moved the head offices back again. Niner, they're one of the OG gravel brands, and they seem to be reinvesting in the space and trying to grab attention once more. And they've got a new gravel bike called the OR9 RDO, or ORE9 RDO. I don't even know how to say it. I can't tell which one's an acronym and which one's not. So yeah, carbon gravel bike, ticks many of the bingo spots as far as modern gravel bikes go. Yeah, what would be on your bingo list, Suvi?
Oh, big tire clearance.
Yeah, fits 700 by 50 mil, so
yeah,
about
50.
where most of landing. Yeah,
wide handlebar. Unfortunately,
wide handlebar.
I think it's because this is more. Well, it depends. There would be okay. Bingo list would be that the brand launches 2 models. One's a race bike, and the other one's an adventure oriented.
Gotcha.
And the adventure one has an extremely wide handlebar. The race one has a slightly narrower, but still not narrow enough handlebar.
Yeah, right. I'd say this one sits more on the adventure side. So it's got like it is suspension corrected for up to a 40mm tire, up to a 40mm fork.
UDH.
Yeah, it's got UDH. It's got a 69-degree head angle, longer front center. So it's kind of falling into that territory of like the BMC or like a Santa Cruz Stigmata. Yeah, kind of a little bit mountain bikey. So yeah, this one's the adventure side. So I guess we'll have to see what Niner does on the pure race side.
Yeah, I think interesting as well. I was just scrolling through their press that they said that they've tested this to the mountain bike ISO standards, which I don't know if I've seen that before. Might be that brands haven't maybe shouted about it, but...
Yeah, I think not shouted about, but it has become increasingly more common. I know like Santa Cruz did that with their Stigmata. I think, the way the gravel bikes have gone, like they're increasingly being used like as if they're mountain bikes. And I know more and more brands are certainly, testing them to that level of the standard, which basically has higher weights and more strain, like more repetition done in the testing for durability and outright strength. So yeah, I know more and more brands are doing this, and I think it's necessary, especially when you're starting to put like mountain bike tires and suspension forks on these things. Like you can do plenty rowdy things on them. So the final point on this Niner is that the headset is just a headset. There's no cables running through it. So what a novelty. But I think that is a feature worth pointing out, because as more and more brands do go the way of integrated cabling through the headset, I think this starts to become an actual selling point. So nice to have choice, nice to have options. So look out for that one. We'll probably have that bike as well covered in some of our Sea Otter coverage. Suvi, Zwift have been very busy. I think they released 37 updates.
Just about.
What are some of the key ones?
Oh, key ones. Where do we start? I think probably the biggest thing that has been
There's
the
a
headline.
Squirrel. something.
Oh, the squirrel in the pocket. Yes, you can ride with what's the squirrel called? Scotty. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I guess to get to that, having that Scotty the squirrel in your back pocket when you're riding on Zwift is easier now, because your outdoor rides will count towards the XP's experience points on Zwift. Okay. My understanding is that it's limited to 200k, the rides. So yeah, beyond that, they won't count per week, I understood. Okay. I might be wrong on that. But there's a limit to it anyway. And you get your rides from Garmin or Wahoo. No other kind of connection you need to redo. No Strava. I don't know why that is. Maybe it would be because you can also do kind of manual rides, or, you know, them, what do you call them? Manual activities on Strava. Maybe it would make it too complicated. But yeah, Hammerhead's about to come. And overall, I think Zwift is moving towards something like, I guess, Strava or Training Peaks. It's kind of bringing together all these different training places, different training metrics that you've got. There's a lot more kind of training data incorporated into the platform now. You get this kind of training status, whether you're productive or overreaching or whatever else they want to call your training. What else is there? There's also an integration now with the core body temperature sensor, so you can see that data on the screen as well.
Okay. On that, is there any, have they yet included like left-right balance from your parameter?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that's there as well. That was on the list.
I mean, that maybe seems like a weird thing to be excited about, but
that's a big one.
Like there are just so many data fields that you record on a typical head unit device that Zwift hasn't recorded. And so what I've always ended up doing was like, you end up recording a ride twice and then having to go into Training Peaks and Strava and all these other platforms and deleting one of them. If you want to have all the data you're collecting maintained, which I still do for some reason. I don't quite understand, but it's something I do.
No, that is actually a big one. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty massive news from Zwift. Like, it does seem like a very, very big launch of theirs. I think they've also updated the bike, the Zwift bike that they recently announced. What came to that?
Yeah, there's a new crankset available for that, so you can adjust the crank
We're talking
length.
about the physical bike here, not the Tron bike or something.
Correct.
Like that,
Yeah.
Yes, the physical bike.
Right. Yeah. The smart bike. So you can get new cranks for it, which have 160 to 175 millimeter. It's like, what did they call it? Like a bear claw, whatever. I can't remember what the official.
It looks like a bike fitting crank, basically. Like
yeah, it is. Yeah,
so
it's got different holes for different crank lengths. The previous one was only 170, so it was obviously limiting. And now you can go down to 160 or up to 175 with the same crank. It's $99. So
that's pretty cheap. Yeah. Ronan, do you foresee people testing their ultimate ideal crank length with this?
I mean, I definitely foresee people doing that. Just having an adjustable crank on its own doesn't mean that you can't test that, though. But I can see people, and it's a nice option to have, is to play about with it. I have recently got Appleman's fit cranks. Appleman, they produce cranks in the USA. And their range is like with the one crankset from 100 mil all the way up to like 175. And you can even just like hire their cranks to
that's cool.
Trial out different lengths and then send them back afterwards. So I'm kind of wondering, like, why is it limited to 160 to 175 with the Zwift one? A slight tweak to the design, a couple of extra threaded holes, you can extend the range there much further. But perhaps, Dave, you have an answer to that.
Cost. I mean, they're charging $100 for this. I think at a point, the more holes you drill, the bigger you make the crank, the more the cost has to go up. So it's probably a balance between like pleasing 97% of the market, 95% of the market. Yeah.
Dave, can you put an estimate on how much an extra hole would cost? Because if we're talking cents here,
enough that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they'll have the update. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Elite already did that with theirs, but theirs is a lot more, it looks a lot more sophisticated.
The Wahoo bike also has like a limited range of crank lengths adjustable. But I want to just come back to the fact that Zwift, while it is nice that they're offering this, it's an extra $100 on top of the bike after you've bought it, when they've not done this on the bike in the first place to save money. So it's actually a double cost to the consumer. Not double, but you're paying twice for something that I think should have been included from day one. To only have 170 crank lengths is like, and also the setback seat post that comes in that bike. Those two things combined, mean that it was just never even a consideration for myself and all the riders who are focused on their fit.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. Very much more of a consumer, non-enthusiast level product, I would say. Like it was definitely made to a price, and I think those limitations are now fixing at a cost. But still, I think the pricing sounds reasonable enough on that. So if that was a barrier.
Do you do in supermarkets in Australia? Do you have like the yellow label where like things are going out of date and they get reduced, and then people buy them so that they can go out of date in their fridge at home rather than out of date in the fridge?
Similar, yeah.
Because there's like a pound off it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because
those aren't really a bargain. If you don't need the thing and never would have bought it, then it's not a bargain.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Was there anything else on Zwift, or should we?
There probably is something more, but some new routes and the rest of it. But that's you'll find it out if you go on Zwift.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, plenty there.
And figure out how to get this Scotty disc coil. It was 24 week. Yeah, 24 week streak it requires to get that.
Oh my.
Which is a lot.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, right.
I've never ever achieved
that.
You
have to be very, very committed to get a
what happens then? There's a squirrel in your back pocket for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When you're riding.
Sounds like both animal cruelty and dangerous.
I don't know. Maybe it likes being there.
Squirrels I've seen don't. Yeah, they're not pets.
It's a different kind of squirrel. I was thinking is whether that's going to affect your weight. Whether you should look up how much a squirrel is going to weigh and add it to your weight, because it's constantly in your back pocket.
Oh well, I'm looking forward to next year's updates, which turn the squirrel into a parachute that let you fly between courses, Mario Kart style. Everything, whenever you talk about Zwift, always returns to Mario Kart.
Speaking of recording your outdoor rides, Wahoo has also this week announced some new things. It is bringing out an updated version of the Roam and Bolt computers, and also, excitingly, introducing a rear radar, because I love a rear radar now. None of these products are available for about another month though, and as such, Wahoo has decided to share with us very basic information about them. So what we do know is that the Roam and Bolt are both kind of getting updates that seem similar to what the Ace, the flagship brick of a computer that Wahoo launched last year and Ronan reviewed, got. So they're getting redesigned interface, some better navigation with points of interest and voice prompts, but they are also getting bigger screens. The Roam is now going to come with a 2.8-inch touchscreen, and the Bolt is going to have a 2.3-inch screen, and they have a better battery life, 25 hours for the Roam and 20 hours for the Bolt. And you can expect to pay $450 for the Roam and $330 for the Bolt. And then the radar, that's a brand new product for Wahoo. Again, not much detail about it. It looks quite similar to other rear radars out there, and it is supposed to detect vehicles from behind you. And Wahoo says that it has a brake light functionality, which means that if you slow down a lot, it will have a brighter light at that time. Pairs with ANT Plus and Bluetooth head units. Battery life is up to 20 hours, and the price of it is $200. We'll hopefully be getting some of these to review when they are actually out and not just announced, so we'll chat about them more when we get them.
Well, let's move on to some other tech news. Also, something that we'll be seeing at Sea Otter is a company called Optis, OPTIS. They've basically invented an inflatable tire insert. This is very much aimed at the mountain bike market, probably predominantly the gravity world, so downhill and enduro. But this one stood out to me. It's basically a TPU tube that sits inside your rim channel, and you inflate the TPU tube, and it creates like what's effectively a bead lock to your tire, so holding the tire on, and would also give some level of rim protection in case you did, say, pinch the tire. It's an interesting design because Schwalbe actually did this, or Schwalbe. Here we go again. This is a throwback to last week's episode, not being able to pronounce this. Schwalbe had the Procore, which was basically the first tire insert in the market ever. And that was like this heavy duty rubber insert that you'd inflate and yeah, it'd basically be like a secondary tube in addition to your tubeless system, and that would provide rim protection and this bead lock. And off the back of that came like the likes of Cushcore and dozens of other tire inserts that we've seen, come into gravel and road since then. So this is a very interesting product for me because it's basically going back to that Schwalbe Procore idea, but it's doing it in TPU, so it's significantly lighter. And they've also come up with a really clever valve design, which basically integrates the ability to inflate this insert plus the air in your tire all through one valve stem, whereas that original Procore system required 2 valve stems, so you had to like double drill the rim basically. So I think that's pretty interesting. One to watch. For now, it will basically just be sort of downhill and enduro mountain bikes, but I don't know. I think with enough popularity and maybe enough interest, this, Ronan, this could be potentially something like this could be the answer to your fears of keeping tires on rims.
I was just thinking that as you were speaking there.
So, yeah, it's a cool one. Anyway, Optis is the brand, so OPTIS. DT Swiss seem to be pretty busy with new product releases. Never goes too many months before you hear something new from DT Swiss, and they officially announcing their new 350 DEG hub. So this follows on from the 240 DEG hub that I think came out last year, one that I reviewed, and it's basically the mountain bike specific high tooth count hub. So it's 90 tooth points of engagement. In many ways, it's like an oversized version of their star ratchet system. So the ratchets are like significantly bigger. The old star ratchets sort of fit inside of these new star ratchets. It's that big, and by making them bigger, larger diameter, they're able to have more teeth on there. So that's how they get the 90 tooth of engagement. But yeah, now at a 350 level, this is something that I think, off the top of my head, Reserve had actually been selling, built into wheel sets for the last 6 months, year or so, but now it becomes officially available. And Suvi, I think you remarked earlier that they've got some limited edition colors that you were quite keen on.
Yeah, even though I definitely I'm not the target market for these hubs, but I would still love them. They come in 3 limited edition colors, 350 of each available worldwide. There's a pink, blue, and green one available. They just look really, really cool. And I don't know if DT Swiss really does this often at all.
Or in the limited edition. Yeah, DT Swiss hubs, I'd say, generally very functional. Like, not all of their hubs are fantastic. They've had some issues recently in some of their newer designs. But yeah, the one criticism I'd say for DT Swiss hubs that's held true for 2 decades is that they're a boring looking hub. So yeah, it's quite nice to see these limited edition colorways. Yeah, I like it. I kind of, part of me wishes that DT Swiss would add it more permanently to the lineup. So,
but maybe they will after this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a hard one for. I think that it's more profitable just to sell a black hub than have than have to stock your hub in 10 different colorways and all the different various axles and all that. So the whole counts. So I think they're willing to let that, they're willing to let the colored hub market go to the other dozen or so competitors, it seems. But anyway, it's nice to see them playing it. Maxxis have new gravel tires. They're basically redoing their entire gravel tire range with what they're calling HyperX compound. And yeah, it's kind of combining the Max Grip compound from the mountain bike and the Hyper compound from the road. And yeah, the result that they're claiming is more grip, significantly lower rolling resistance, while a refresh to the nylon casing is said to be more puncture resistant without impacting ride quality. They've also redone their hot patch, so the logos are now much more subtle, like a grey kind of color rather than a bright yellow. All sounds good. The whole range is basically being redone in this, but yeah, it'll sort of filter out over the next few months as stock of the old models clear out and stock of the new models are actually made. So yeah, expect this one to take sort of 6 months before we fully see it in the marketplace. But all right. Ronan, Cadex have a new saddle. What can you tell us about it?
I can tell you they have a new saddle. with
Good.
variable
Let's move
density 3D printed padding, carbon shell, carbon rails. It's 147 grams. It's 245 mil long. It's 145 mil wide. I have one on the way for review. I don't know the price. And moving on.
Okay. All right. Deal. All right. One to watch.
Interesting looking though, so that's why I've called it in for review.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Why is it interesting?
It's got a nice long cutout section on it. The 3D printed padding is, in vogue or on trend at the moment. I'm not really all that fussed about that either way. I think Cadex have got very close to the type of saddle I would look to myself, but I think like a lot, they may just have fallen short in terms of that cutout. So I want to try that out and see how.
But this
close they
is,
got.
would you say this is like a TT inspired saddle for the road?
I don't think it goes that far, but it is inspired by relieving soft tissue pressure. Maybe that's which is a good thing, I think.
Have you tried the Cadex amp, the non-3D version?
I had used a Cadex in the past, but I'm not sure what the name of that. On the Everesting bike, I had a Cadex saddle. I can't remember what the name of it was.
All right. Well, one to watch. Sounds like you're about to get your hands on it. TPU Tube Sealant. I didn't know this is a thing, but Rene Hurst has just announced that they have a TPU.
Are you sure it's
tube
not
sealant?
an April Fool's?
It seems not. So yeah, Rene Hurst sell TPU tubes, lightweight plastic tubes. They now have a sealant just for their inner tubes.
So you take the lightweight tube and you add weight to it with sealant. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, and the whole idea of tubes is that you don't have to deal with sealant. Like tubeless is normally the pitch I get for people that want to run TPU tubes. So, but yeah,
if you have this in a tubeless tire, will it then seal the tire?
So that's the question mark I have, and the other question I have is, do other sealants work in TPU tubes, which I haven't tried. So I looked into this. Rene Hurst are not the first to do this. They're probably just the best at announcing it. True Tension, a UK company, they have a general tire sealant that says it's TPU compatible. And looking into this Rene Hurst stuff, I came across Eclipse, who are one of the first manufacturers for TPU tubes, and they make TPU tubes for a lot of others. It seems like they're actually just making the TPU tubes for Rene Hurst because they have TPU Tube Sealant as well, which has the same bottle as Rene Hurst's. So, yeah, anyway, an interesting category development, I guess. One to watch. One I'm hoping to get some more information on from others as to whether other sealants can be used in TPU tubes effectively. And one I should probably just go ahead and test myself.
Well, Dave, the only place I use TPU tubes is in my saddlebag, so I'll not be needing the sealant.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, and I agree. I'm tubeless all the way on all my bikes, but have been.
I'm not saying that.
Okay. Well,
latex
I would say
the
there is a very clear trend of people starting to use TPU tubes more and more for full time on their bikes. Like it is becoming quite popular, and a clear trend of people that perhaps weren't so keen on the maintenance of tubeless, or not confident on the maintenance of tubeless, that they've started to revert back to these tubes.
Can I make a plea to those listeners and ask them to consider latex? Unless you've got like a latex allergy or something, fair enough. But I run tubes and I don't run butyl or TPU.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth noting that specialized racing teams on the road, they still often, not always, but often run tubes in their tires, and they are still team latex. Yeah, TPU tubes are becoming more of a performance product, but are still not quite at that same level as latex. But anyway. Yeah, one for another conversation, I think. But it's either way, TPU tubes are incredibly popular at the moment, so it's cool to see more related product, even if I have questions over why you'd want it. So and how effective it is the other question I have. So I need to test this.
Tubes need to be on your mind next week.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I need to spend some time poking holes in expensive TPU tubes. It seems good times. Coming to the end of our long list of new products, and I'm sure there's more we've missed. OneUp, they have a new version of their carbon handlebar, the Carbon V2 handlebar. Just a quick mention on this one because I love it. It's a 35mm diameter mountain bike handlebar that has like tuned flex zones, and it was one of the first 35mm diameter handlebars to like be actually comfortable. It's designed to ride much more like a skinnier 31.8 handlebar. I have it on my own bike, love it. But yeah, they have come out with a new version, and one of the big updates is that they now have like width specific versions. So they'll do an 800 version and a 760 version. And the idea there is that they, if you were to previously take the 800 width version and cut it down to 750, like I did, it ends up being a significantly stiffer bar than what the person running it at 800 millimeter width wanted or would receive. So yeah, by having multiple widths, they can kind of tune the ride quality of these bars so you get all the benefits even if you're running it narrower. They're not the first to do this. Raceface beat them to the market with these sort of width specific ride quality bars, but either way, it's a nice update, and I think something that I have personally felt the difference of, and I think for people looking to tune the ride comfort on their bike should be looking to. But yeah, Ronan.
Dave, on that note, I listened to another podcast, and at the end of it, they have a good product section, and they will discuss a good product that they've encountered in the previous week. And it's not even always a product, but I like it anyway. And your talk of handlebars just reminded me of a good product I encountered recently. Do you mind if I share it?
Sure.
So it's a Zip SL80 handlebars.
I don't like it. Let's move on.
You don't like it. I know you won't. But I didn't quite like the look of them either. But I fitted them for a rider here locally in the past couple of weeks, and they were a joy to work with.
Okay.
2-piece setup, which is you can obviously adjust infinitely. Second time this podcast we've used infinitely when maybe it wasn't actually quite infinite, but you get the point. But the hose routing in that is it's not routing. It's externally hidden.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It is a clever bar.
Just a nice handlebar in general.
I have tested that bar before, so I've spent a few months on it, and fundamentally I didn't agree. My sciatica didn't agree with the reach number they chose on that bar, but I know you and other people that actually have athleticism still left in them enjoy a longer reach handlebar. So that was my big complaint with that bar. I
mean, they're obviously like designed to integrate best with the SRAM axis setup.
They are.
But they actually integrate the wireless blip buttons, which are like, in my opinion, like a terrible shape for mounting two handlebars where they're designed to be mounted to. But yeah, they're just, I like them. That's all I wanted to say. And your talk of handlebars reminded me of that.
I've spent nearly the last year on the Explore version of that handlebar, which is a 70mm reach, but very many of the same features, just in a different shape. And it is a good bar. I think I'm about to take it off the bike in favor of something a little bit more compliant, but I'm just very, very fussy in that regard, and there's no reason I need to take it off the bike. It's a good handlebar. I just perks of the job, I guess, is that I get to be fussy about these things. So lucky last on the list, just to wrap up all the new products, Fizik have just announced their entry into helmets. So they started in saddles, they went to shoes, now they're in helmets. What's next?
Cornflakes.
Okay, so breakfast cereals from Fizik.
Why not? I mean, is the K is they're going to have a trademark battle with someone, because it's going to be K.
Oh yeah,
cereal.
Special K. Yeah,
special K.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot of new helmets that all start with K in their range. They got 2 road helmets, 1 time trial helmet, and 1 mountain bike helmet. They look large, I think, is the summary to make on these. Every rider I've seen them fitted on to date, it looks big. Alex, I would say, sort of teeters between small to medium helmets normally, and was basically at the maximum of the adjustment range on the small helmet. And yeah, speaking of Alex, he's written about these helmets. By the time you're listening to this, you should see the write-up on Escape. He goes into all the details about these new helmets and first impressions. There's some interesting details, some interesting adjustments to the helmet to sort of adjust the shape of it. But But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very competitive market, and it's, with anything, if you're a new entrant, sort of, you have to have something very big to stand out on. And from what I've seen, I'm not seeing it here. But yeah. Anyway, wonder again. Head to escapecollective.com. Alex has spent a bunch of time thinking about those helmets, writing them up. Yeah, I'll be honest, it's not all positive. So, all right. Well, I think that is plenty for this week. I think we've done a virtual tour of the Sea Otter event. I'm sure there will be more to come in the next week or two. But yeah, keep an eye out for coverage on Escape. We've got Roubaix just around the corner. It's going to be a busy few weeks of cycling tech, so plenty to come. And with that, for members of Escape Collective, you'll now get to listen to Ask a Wrench with myself and Brad Copeland, where we dive into a bunch of member-submitted questions this week, which include, we've got a question about sort of providing an entry-level guide into selecting disc brake pads and sort of the positives and negatives between different material options there. We answer a question related to cable longevity in Campagnolo Mechanical. There's a tip about burning oils off of disc brake rotors. And we talk about an old school trick to make tyre sealants more effective, whether we recommend it or not. But yeah, to enjoy all of that, you need to be a member of Escape Collective. You need to be on the member-only feed of our podcast. So yeah, if you're not already a member, please head to escapecollective.com/join. Become a member, support what we do, and get access to everything that we do. So you can stop hearing me talk about how great Ask a Wrench is and actually participate in it. One further note, if you are a member of Escape Collective and you haven't taken the one step to have the podcast automatically appear in your podcast player of choice, you can listen to the member-only pods on escapecollective.com now. So you just head to the podcast landing page, and from there you'll be able to basically hit play and use that page as your player. So there's more than one way to access these podcasts now, if you're a member. Suvi, Ronan, good to see you. Good to chat.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. All right. Well, until next week. And yeah, we'll jump on over to Ask a Wrench now.